Alright guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm here with Aaron Wedderburn. He's a DP cinematographer and director from Toronto, and we're going to be talking about the topic of handheld, the importance of it, when and when not to use it, and why you should be doing more of it.
Hey guys, my name is Aaron Wedderburn. I'm a local cinematographer and director from the GTA. I predominantly do a lot of handheld work. That's my style, and here's my rig.
Alright, so right now we have on the table a bunch of different things. For some people who don't film at all, this might look like a big hunk of metal on the table. Aaron, can you explain what this is to the people who don't know?
This is my rig. Right now it's the A6300 mounted in a smaller rig case. I have a top handle so I can have another point of contact, as well as some nice vintage lenses that I like to run with the camera. For my monitor of choice, I use the Lilliput A7S. It's a really good 7-inch monitor. Honestly, you can pick it up for like, what? We got it for like $200?
$200.
Yeah, it's honestly
Canadian.
Legit. It's dirt cheap. You can pick it up anywhere. You could walk into Henry's and pick it up right now.
Don't walk into Henry's, walk into
Discount. Don't. Please don't. Anywho, so this monitor is really great. Now what I did to the back of it is I added a 15mm rod adapter just so I could simply slide that into my top handle right there. Just makes it a bit easier for when I'm doing handheld and shoulder work.
What is this stuff right here? What is this?
So what I do is the bottom of the cage on the A6300 has a Manfrotto plate. So now I mount that Manfrotto plate inside of the adapter right here, and that connects it to kind of my hub, where it allows me to place my power solution on the back, as well as sliding my shoulder pad on and off, whether I'm using handheld, where it's kind of tucked into my body, shoulder pad for the shoulder, or just straight Manfrotto plate so I could place it on top of a tripod.
And this is a rosette handle that Aaron puts on the side of his camera. This is also for more stability and point of contact on the side of his rig.
Exactly.
Right?
So what I do is that if I'm holding it tucked into my torso, I would often flip the handle upwards so I could have that extra third, well, what is that, like fourth point of contact at this point?
Fourth point of contact.
Exactly. So just another point of contact.
This is all fine and dandy explaining to the viewers like what every piece is, and we'll go into more detail a little bit later, but let's explain like the importance of handheld cinematography, because I feel like that's underrated, especially in Toronto right now. I feel like a lot of people just own gimbals and think that by owning a gimbal, they're, you know, gonna get all the clients and get the best shots possible, but handheld adds a different perspective to filming. So Aaron, why don't you take over and explain to us why we maybe should be using more handheld, especially for cinematography?
Well, what I really love about handheld is the fact that it gives you a really natural, organic look. That, and it allows you to do a lot more with the camera than you can with the gimbal. For example, with our earlier work, we pretty much, the A cam was always on the gimbal, and then the B cam was the one that was handheld. So we use that like maybe for a few side angles and whatever, but the main performances are always on the gimbal. And when you start to do that, things begin to get a bit repetitive. Whether you sway, you kind of do like a little ninja walk, or even just little crawl with your feet, there's always a different kind of motion that you can do to make that image different. That shoot that we did with Jay LLS.
Yes,
there we go. That one, amazing. We did that 100% handheld. Jacob was in the back, like swinging outside of a Wrangler going down the highway with his camera, and I'm like, all right, you do you. But I was in the front seat. That video 100% handheld, great motion. I feel like we got a really organic feel with it. Meanwhile, for another video that we did, Don't Like Talking.
That was all handheld too.
Exactly, that was all handheld too. And another thing that we did for the bar scene, you can easily done that scene with the gimbal, but the one thing that kind of pushed it to the next level was with the handheld movement. One thing that I like to do is I kind of like to breathe at the same rate as the actor. The model that we had, who was kind of frantic and very startled, what I did is that I started to kind of match my shake and my breathing with hers, or at least the way that it would have been portrayed in the scene. That's when I started to get those little micro jitters, just kind of show she's at her breaking point, really.
So I feel like that's like one of the most important features of handheld, is you can capture emotion a lot better than a gimbal. I used to be a very big gimbal user, like this guy knows for sure, like we've been shooting together for the last 2 years. and all I would use was gimbal. I'd be like, hey, yeah, that's cool. You go over there in the corner with your handheld little dinky rig.
What, a concert, and I'm over there with my handheld rig, you know, getting in between the crowd, stuff like that. This big old Ronin is walking through, hey guys.
However, now I always choose to shoot primarily on a handheld.
Exactly.
Again, gimbal is for like the gliding shots. If you want to cover a big area of land, just say the artist is 12 feet ahead of you and you have this open space for the artist to like move around and perform and like point to the camera, you would most likely want to use a gimbal to like get around him, get up close and kind of transfer around. Or like maybe a moving car shot, you can also use a gimbal for those smooth shots. But usually with handheld, you're doing more of a raw, quick emotion, or you're swaying with the camera. You're getting really close and up personal. It's a very personal experience for the viewer to see while you're filming as well. So I think handheld in some cases actually works better than a gimbal. So that's why we primarily now shoot with handheld. Most of our videos coming out are all shot with a rig. So this kind of brings up to the discussion of when you should and shouldn't use handheld. Aaron?
Well, when you shouldn't be using handheld is when you're trying to do large or long motions or long stretches. Say you're walking down a corridor and you want to have a nice stabilized shot, just going from point A to point B, from the beginning of the hallway to the end. You can do that handheld, but then you would have to risk using warp stabilizer and stuff like that, and your shot might not come out as well. Meanwhile, if you were to use a gimbal, it would work exactly like a gimbal should, just stabilized.
You can also do following shots, tracking shots, Dutch angles, and things like that with a handheld rig as well, but it definitely conveys a different feeling. It's definitely not as smooth, obviously, as a stabilized gimbal would be.
Yeah.
Definitely depends on the video you're going for. So we shot a couple different videos where we are following someone. We did use handheld, so we just recently released a video with Novalush. It's called Crush. He actually was the DP for pretty much the entire thing, and we actually chose to do handheld for everything, right? I think we did handheld and tripod work for mostly every shot. One of the beginning shots is actually following Novalush inside the house, and it's all done handheld completely. It's a little bit shaky, but that kind of adds to the emotion and the raw feeling that we wanted to convey to the audience. So there's definitely different uses. And I just recently filmed another video. We had this corridor, it was very small, and I used this 14mm wide angle lens on the A7 III, which we're filming on right now. And I was ninja walking. I was hand holding just like the small cage and the camera, and I was just twisting like this, and I was walking forward. Now, two things, I was using a super wide lens, so of course when you use a wide lens,
there's less parallax with the background so that it doesn't distort as much. Rather than using a 50mm trying to do the same movement, you notice that warp stabilizer wouldn't really be able to help you.
Exactly, and it was really smooth, but I wanted to be even smoother, so in this case, we usually don't recommend to use warp stabilizer, but putting that on top of a 14mm lens and then moving in handheld, the warp stabilizer actually worked out very well, as you can see in the shot I'm about to put up on the screen for you guys. It worked out pretty nicely. So there's definitely different cases where you can use handheld and it just works out better than a gimbal. Or if you don't have money for a gimbal, because it can be pretty expensive, building a handheld rig at a reasonable price, especially one like this where it's super janky but does the job, definitely is more beneficial than wasting money on a gimbal, unless you're really in need of one for the shot. But again, depends on the video, depends on the context. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up, I think, our discussion on handheld cinematography. Aaron, do you have anything extra to add at the end here?
Pretty much what I'm trying to say is just do whatever you want with your handheld. We picked up some stuff down the line and realized that it worked, we stuck with it, and it's what made us do what we were doing today.
That's it for today. Thank you, Aaron, so much for coming through. I appreciate it so much.
No problem.
Of course, we'll be working on more projects together, and we have some more stuff already releasing, so keep on the lookout for that on our Instagrams. Aaron's Instagram will be linked in the description below and also on the screen right now. You can now also click the ping icon. I keep forgetting what the name is every video, but it will be there for you guys to click right now. Something for my last video.
Yeah.
Something like, I don't even, you guys know what it is. It's up there, so easy.